So I've been watching some. I really don't know what, again, we talked about the social dilemma multiple times now on this podcast, and I really don't know how certain things get fed up in your feed, things like YouTube and stuff. But I've been stumbling across kind of some interesting videos on YouTube. I've been like, I keep getting these things about like computer graphics, and I guess I've been watching stuff about making of video games and all this stuff. But I actually learned a super interesting thing today that I definitely didn't know before, and I think it's still kind of a little bit not unbelievable. It's believable, but still very interesting. So, you know who Ikea is, obviously.
The company.
Yes. Yeah.
And
in fact, I mean, you've told me interesting facts about them too, about how like they're the biggest like non-profit or something like that. Is like, I don't know. I think that you told me that, right?
They're not nonprofit, but it's the biggest. They're technically the biggest. I forget what the term is, but they're privately owned, like the biggest privately owned company in the world. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So obviously one of the coolest things about Ikea is browsing stuff, right? Like you go to Ikea and I mean, if you're there for something specific, it's really annoying. But if you're kind of just there browsing whatever, you get to see all the stuff. But I don't know, do you browse the Ikea catalog at all? Do you still get that in the mail? Like we still get the Ikea like physical catalog in the mail every now and then. Like, do you get that at all?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay. So yeah, the physical Ikea catalog.
Yeah.
So did you know, apparently, and this hasn't been corroborated, I haven't really looked into this at all. Like it's literally just like the first maybe like 1 minute of a 59-minute YouTube video that really doesn't have to do with Ikea. So this could be false, but I don't see any reason why this person would lie about this. But it turns out that close to 75% or more than 75% of the pictures that you see in an Ikea catalog are completely photorealistic CG.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what it is, it's the advantage and flexibility you have with CG, right?
Yeah.
So I guess if they want to swap out colors or if they want to recreate that scene or whatever, it turns out, yeah, like again, at least 75% of the stuff that you see in an Ikea catalog is completely computer generated, but again, photorealistic computer generated. So
yeah, I mean that makes sense at their scale, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes me wonder if the images you see on their like website are just.
Yeah. I would imagine probably the same thing, right? I mean, if they're already building them for their catalog, I would assume for so. So definitely interesting. Next time I look at an Ikea picture, I definitely want to kind of. I mean, you probably can't tell, but
it's all deepfakes. It's all deepfakes.
Exactly. Bringing it back.
The people too. The people.
Exactly. Everything about it. The store. When you walk into the store, you're walking into a computer generated graphic. It's
I mean,
not
having fake models or people. Like I feel like that's especially for something like that. I feel like that is the ideal, right? Well, because you don't want to hire real people, and it doesn't matter who you get. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Actually, that's a good point, though. That must be the other 25%.
It's just the people.
Like it's the ones where you see the people in the shot, right? Like it must be that. So, all right. Welcome to the ETC podcast, episode 46 for this wonderful October 7th, 2020. My name is Casey Lee, and sitting across the city from me, as always, is
Aaron Stanker.
That is probably the smoothest I've delivered that line, actually, across the city. I've not really been practicing, but thinking about it a lot more as we go through these episodes. So it is Wednesday, October 7th, 2020, as I mentioned, and we start off today's episode with a little bit of sad news, actually. So Eddie Van Halen, renowned guitarist, I don't know if you heard, but as of yesterday, he actually passed away at the relatively young age of 65 years old. Eddie Van Halen, I did not know this at all till yesterday, but I guess he had been battling with cancer for a little while. And so he died yesterday. And I actually found out, oddly enough, through YouTube. I was scrolling through my feed, and there's a live stream there. And, I can't claim to be a massive Van Halen fan. I can't claim to be a massive Eddie Van Halen fan. But I definitely recognize his influence. I remember when I was younger, Obviously me and you, we grew up playing guitar a lot, and obviously Van Halen was a massive guitar god. And I remember buying an issue of Guitar World, and in Guitar World they had like the top 100 guitar solos of all time or something like that. Right. And at the time I'd never heard Eruption, which we obviously now know, right? Like you must know Eruption. And it wasn't number one. I don't even think it was number two. It might have been like number three or something like that. Okay. It was number two or number three in the list. Yeah. I think number one is Stairway to Heaven. And I can't remember if it was that introduced me to it, but I remember listening to Eruption and being like, oh my God, this is such a crazy solo. And then I started to realize that I don't think he necessarily invented it. Maybe he did, but it seemed like he popularized the whole finger tapping technique that we all kind of started like making ourselves sound impressive by doing or whatever. I remember later on buying a Van Halen album after they had switched the lead singer a couple of times. So I think it was Sammy Hagar at one point. And then, so I actually bought this album after they switched it to the guy. There's a guy who used to be from a band called Extreme. And I remember buying that album, loving that album. And I think the biggest thing I really liked about Van Halen was it was like really cool 80s pop music mixed with really impressive, crazy guitar. But I've come to realize that a lot of 80s rock is that way. But anyways,
I think he pioneered that. I don't know what you call that genre, right? But I mean, like, Jump, right? Like that's such a 80s song, but also I feel like they're the ones who kind of pioneered it, right?
I'll be honest, I don't even know if I know that song.
Oh, you don't know Jump?
I'm sure I do, but I don't know if
you heard it, you would know.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
We'll put a link.
We'll put a link in the show notes. But yeah, definitely like, again, growing up playing guitar, I remember Eruption just being such a solo that a lot of us tried to learn. I tried to fake learning it, and I did not do well at it. So I mean, always sad when anybody passes away. 65 years old, but it's just one of these things where, like, I don't know, you almost like forget about these people a little bit, and then you realize it kind of brings back memories and brings back all this stuff. So I never know what to say in these situations. I guess the classic thing to say is just rest in peace. So
yeah, I mean, it's what's crazy is that like the band was named Van Halen, right?
Yeah,
but he was the guitar player, you said, they went through some singers. I can't even remember the names of all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
exactly.
And like I feel like that it's significant. I think it's I think that era. Like I don't see another band. I feel like we're past the era where someone is so talented, right? That is not like leading up or singing or whatever. That the entire band is named after.
It's a good point, right? You have a lot of kind of artists that are kind of solo, impressive musicians, right? Like Satriani, but I feel like we're even past that a little bit. All these impressive like solo artists. But you're right, as an entire band, it's really rare.
Think of modern. Is there a modern band that's named after one person? Like
no, I mean, again, it's usually the lead singer or something, right?
Yeah.
Like but you're right. I think we're past that era. And what's interesting, right, is like, I mean, I always remember growing up where, like, I remember they were talking about when like Slash was going to leave Guns N' Roses, and don't get me wrong, Slash is amazing. I think November Rain was like the number 6 guitar solo in that list or whatever.
Yeah,
and Guns N' Roses is still one of my favorite bands, and I love Slash and stuff like that. But the reality is, like, you could replace Slash. They might not be as good, but the band would still kind of live on and still kind of work. And I think Guns N' Roses even did that, I don't think they're nearly as successful as they were. But you're right. It's interesting that Van Halen was named after the guitarist. I don't think, I'm pretty sure there was no, I'm starting to second guess myself now. Like maybe there was a brother who was a lead singer or something like that. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like he's just crazy talented, and like, just, one of those guitarists that's just like, again, it's funny because it's been so long since we've been like super, super into guitar. And every now and then you go back and you watch these people play, and it's just like, oh my God, just like so good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I go down a rabbit hole of like things in that era sometimes, just because. And again, I think what music has obviously changed, and what people want to listen to, and what's popular has changed. But I think there's something to be said. I mean, as cheesy and like, I think that era of music didn't necessarily have the deepest like songwriting, right?
Yeah.
But what it did have is just like this huge focus on just like raw, like musical talent, like showmanship and showcasing
that's exactly
that.
it.
And so, like, have you ever watched like any videos of Phil Collins like performing live?
No, I actually haven't.
So like I think like you know some Phil Collins song, you know, like in the Night.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big one.
And a lot of people like, yeah, they know the song and it's like cool. But like again, this dude is so talented. Like again, a lot of people don't realize that he sings and drums.
Right, which already is a tough thing. Yeah,
and
that's
not
a tough
just
thing.
any singing and drumming. Like it's pretty hard. Like both the singing, both the vocals and the drumming is pretty intense in a lot of the songs, right? But you watch him perform live and it's just like you can't imagine an artist emerging today doing that.
Right.
Like can you imagine an artist that's like gonna sing this crazy song and then go drumming at the same time? Like
well,
right?
I wonder
past that.
I wonder if it's less about though the artists existing and more that we just don't see them anymore because we're past that.
I think the demand has
wanting, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe those people exist, but you just never see them because no one cares anymore, right? Like I know my sister, for example, like she hates guitar solos. Like she thinks they're so ridiculous to have a guitar solo in a song, right? And you're right, it was all about that showmanship, right? Where it's just like this crazy talent, like every song, right? And I think what's nice about that stuff is you're right. Like even though like you might like it might not be the deepest songwriting, or you might not even be into the song at all, but just watching it is such a spectacle, right? Like I remember when you sent me the John Butler. Was it John Butler? Was that the guy's name? Like
that is a guy's name. Yeah.
But
very
he
talented.
did some 12-string acoustic guitar thing.
Yeah.
And I remember this is the first time in like a long time where I was watching like again crazy guitarist. And I was just like, oh my god, it brought me back and it wanted me to like it's that really like inspirational is really the right word there, right? Where it really inspires you to be like, oh, I want to go back into guitar. I want to do this again. I want to really get good at this again or whatever, right? So it's very cool. So so anyways, Eddie Van Halen, obviously you guys must have heard of him. But if you haven't seen this guy or just perform, Eruption is a crazy solo. Probably a lot of you have heard of it because it actually acted as the intro to another song. Maybe Hot for Teacher. I think that might have been the song that was intro to. I can't remember. But yeah, crazy guitarist.
We'll
so many others out there. So yes. So okay, so let's move on. Let's do the news. Just a couple things on my list here. So interestingly enough, so obviously COVID's around, affecting a lot of productions and a lot of things that were kind of unknown as to what's happening. Things seem to kind of coming back. Like I heard the morning show on Apple TV Plus is starting to reshoot, like kind of get back in the get back into production towards the end of the month. But there was one show that I was really uncertain about the fate of, but not because of COVID, but this is pre-COVID. So about the Orville, right?
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but yes.
Yeah, so Seth MacFarlane, right? Obviously of Family Guy fame, American Dad, all that stuff. He also produced Cosmos. So he produced Orville, which turned out to be a very kind of Star Trek Next Generation style kind of show, right? I remember when Orville came out and what was the Star Trek Discovery? What was the new Star Trek that just came out? Discovery?
I think it's Discovery. I mean, I guess technically Picard is the latest
Picard,
one.
Right.
Yeah, Discovery was
Yeah, so when Discovery came out and Orville came out, I remember people thinking like, "Oh, Discovery is really good," but Orville's more Star Trek-y than Discovery is actually.
I mean, Discovery is like again really much more on the path of like the JJ Star Trek.
Yeah, JJ Abrams Star Trek, exactly.
Which I think some people. I mean, I think we both like that, right?
Like,
but
totally.
It is different, right? Like it's completely different than the kind of like next gen style of Star Trek.
Exactly, because Next Gen is more like a little bit more about the cerebral philosophies and like kind of like moral dilemmas versus like action, right?
And definitely not cool. Like,
although my mind is changing, but that could be because I'm getting older. But anyways, I don't know if you heard, but a while back, Seth MacFarlane signed one of the biggest writing deals to basically leave Fox. So with Family Guy, American Dad, Orville, all this stuff, Cosmos that he was producing, he signed a massive deal with NBC to produce shows for NBC. So there was this big.
Is that what Star Trek is on? NBC, I think.
Star Trek? Star Trek is CBS, I believe.
Oh, CBS.
Picard is CBS at least. I don't know.
No, I think CBS sounds right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he went to NBC. They gave him a massive, massive deal. I mean, this guy is making so much money as it is at Fox, but he's not even bigger deal at NBC. So there was this huge question as to what was happening with all his stuff. Like
right.
he's already apparently off the writing teams of Family Guy and I guess American Dad. He only does like the voices and stuff like that, and maybe he's a producer or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was this big question about what was going to happen with Orville, because, well, one, I don't think the ratings were too good, and so we didn't even know if it's coming back on Fox. And now there was questions about if it's coming back on Hulu or not or whatever. Anyways, long story short, he gave an interview on James Corden the other night. And it turns out they are going into season 3 of Orville. So Orville season 3 is filming right now, or will be filming soon.
Cool.
So we can look forward to that actually coming out sometime. But it'll probably be delayed, as everything is delayed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard the new Batman is delayed until 2022.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of, Bond, right? Bond is a big, story right now. Yeah. Which I don't know the details. Maybe you do, but
no.
It's just like, yeah.
No one knows the details.
But apparently this is it is kind of sad because I think for every movie, because right now, basically the only reason people are going to theaters are for these bigger films, right?
Yes.
Like, I couldn't even tell you I was going to try to make fun of some movie, but I can't even, like, what's a movie in theaters right now that is just like nobody would go watch? Like, I can't even tell you, right? Like,
I have no idea.
Other than Tenet, like, I don't even know what else is playing right now.
Well, and I'm wondering, like, did you hear anything about the Tenet release? Like, how it did at the box office? I'm curious.
Probably terrible.
Did it draw people out? Like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea.
I think it did. And more so than any movie can right now, but still way below. I know it's way below whatever it would have been normally. So that's the thing. Every time there's one of these delays with one of these really huge movies, that's a huge blow to the theaters, right?
Yeah,
because that's literally the only thing they can rely on right now. Like, people are not going out and watching, a useless movie just for fun, right?
Yeah, and it's so funny because I was thinking about this the other day too, about how, like, unfortunately I should speak a little bit more considerately that already a lot of businesses have died. A lot of businesses have died, but I feel like it's potentially getting even worse. And these businesses have to figure out other ways to make income, right? Like, I feel like Cineplex or all these other movie theater companies, they have to kind of figure out a way to get into the digital streaming game sooner than later to just
because
make
I think
some kind of money, right?
They're in kind of like survival mode right now, right? Because I think there's a delay here because it's not like they're going to go down overnight because they probably have some safety margin, but that only lasts so long. So yeah, it's a good. I think there was a chain in, I think it's the UK, Cineworld, I think is the name. But me and Bretton, we went to some of their theaters actually when we were in London. Yeah. So they basically, as soon as Bond was delayed, they shut down. They're like,
right.
They're basically
they shut down their business, or they just closed the theaters.
So what they're doing right now is that they said they're just gonna close the doors for now.
Okay.
But I don't know what the plan there is, right? Like, it's basically, are they just gonna try to hibernate until?
Yeah. Right.
Right. Which I don't think is a great plan because it's like very unpredictable. Like, how do you know, right? And even if things go back to normal, I feel like there's going to be changes, right? Like, again, I don't think demand's going to be the same, but I don't know. It's kind of sad because, again, I want to go see a movie, but again, I'm not really going to do that right now, especially not for anything, that's short of a huge blockbuster. But it is a sad thing that, maybe in 2021, we basically just have one theater chain in Canada, right? Like Cineplex, and then there's AMC is another one. But less theaters, but they might not be around next year, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Well, yeah, and you can only hope that when all this is over, there is a rebuilding and new things start popping up and everything like that. But yeah, it is interesting that it's just unfortunate that there's a lot of businesses that seem to be thriving and can survive in this climate, but there's just not. There's unfortunately just some businesses that just can't work, unfortunately, right? And unless they reinvent themselves or whatever, and I know that's super easier said than done. we're kind of stuck in this situation. So.
Although you can order popcorn from Uber Eats.
That's right.
From Cineplex through Uber Eats. So
have you done that
that's
yet?
I bet you that's like not like, I'm sure that helps, right? Especially since like a lot of the money comes from that. But I love how that's still, I don't know how they're running that. Like, do they just have one high school
Have you tried
student?
that out yet? I've never tried that actually.
I'm trying to, I don't think,
Did we do that on your birthday?
Yeah, but I don't think I've ordered since like, COVID and everything has started happening.
Right.
But I think I have been meaning to do it one of these movie nights. I think a few weekends ago we were watching a movie and I was going to order, but for some reason it was not available. But next movie night, I think, I'll order some popcorn.
Nice. So Apple is suing a Canadian company right now. I don't know if you heard this story.
No.
So there is a Canadian company who I guess I don't know if they're contracted out by Apple or what, but I mean, they must be like to be part of, I guess, the electronics recycling program.
Okay.
So I guess these guys were contracted out to recycle iPhones, probably among other things like iPads and all that stuff like that. So I'm assuming it's one of these things where, again, either you trade in your iPhone or whatever, or you put in to recycle or whatever, or the iPhone is like dead now and you recycle it. It turns out this Canadian company did not recycle the iPhones, and instead, I believe 100,000 of them, they decided to sell secondhand.
That's a pretty, I mean, I don't know what the time period is, but that's a lot of phones. And
yeah. I mean, that's gotta be, I mean, you're probably selling secondhand, maybe at least $100, right? Probably more. So what's 100 times 100,000? A million? Is that right?
Yeah.
So. Or no, 100 times. No, that's wrong. 10 million.
10 million, yes.
$10 million.
Yeah.
So I don't know the name of the company. I don't know what's going on with this case. But yeah, so that's
all
pretty bad though. Yeah. But I guess it's I don't know. What do you think about that? Is that a bad thing to do? I mean, I think it's bad if they're saying we're going to recycle it and they're not.
I mean, this one's weird because, like, what does recycling mean? Like
I think like I think probably tearing it down to its raw materials and then giving it to recycling plants to reuse the metal and the glass and all that stuff. I'm assuming.
I mean, if that's the case, like it's weird because reselling a phone is actually that's like the ultimate form of recycling, right? Like
because then you don't have to use all the energy and resources to process the recycling, right?
Yeah, and because you still have to make a new device, even if you can recover a lot of the materials, right? Like,
yeah.
So that one's weird. So yeah, and I'm curious, like, what, like, I wonder what Apple's relationship in that is supposed to be. If they were supposed to get something, and maybe that's why they're suing, right? Like, maybe it's they had a contract to deliver materials or something. But no, that one's weird. I think like so the one interesting thing, there's a lot of there's been a lot of studies around. The impact of phones and devices, and because like, these things take up resources and then you got to dispose of them and things like that. And it's really interesting because Apple's really big. Every event now Apple has like basically a call out on what they're doing for environmental
totally
guidelines and what they're doing.
They always have that green table with the green check marks or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they have a whole like person that's like running up that whole part of the company now, right? She comes up and speaks, and I mean that's great. I think they do a lot to ensure they're trying to reduce like the consumption of resources and things like that. But there's some studies done where the biggest source of recycling or like reusability is actually just the secondhand market, and this is that's actually one place Apple comes out way ahead of anything else for one reason or the other. An Apple device is much more likely to be resold and used by multiple owners.
Right.
One, because the initial purchase price is quite high, right? Yep. And so it's one way for people to get a device at a lower price. But maybe that's also a testament to like, and I think this can go both ways because I don't know about you, but I feel that maybe in the last few years, their devices they don't necessarily feel like they're meant to be, used for, years and years. But I would say they still do pretty well. And I think, I've had Apple devices sometimes for for ages, right? And they're
Yeah,
fine.
totally,
And I think you have too, right? So I think that is interesting. Like I don't see that as a bad thing. So it's weird for Apple to sue for this, but also maybe they're double dipping. Like what I think is happening is Apple probably paid them.
Oh yeah, exactly,
and it was a trust agreement. And now, and then they went and like, cool. Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to make even more money, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's totally like definitely like. I mean, I'm sure the contract is very clear as to what these guys did wrong, right? Like, I mean, also not to mention like if you're selling it second on the market. And like maybe there's also staining the Apple like guarantee of like, you know, like when Apple sells something refurbished, they go through a whole refurbished process or whatever. And so that part's clear. Like obviously, like if you're violating your contract and you're supposed to recycle something and then you go and resell it, whatever. But it's right. Like it's interesting. Like why? I mean, that's 100,000 phones that were theoretically resold. So why are there not companies contracted out by Apple, or why isn't Apple themselves putting in the resources to resell these? Right? I mean,
they want to sell
100,000 people are buying these things, right?
Yeah. I mean, not to be cynical, but I think they want to sell new phones, right? So,
yeah, fair.
So I think I would imagine that's a business kind of view on it. But yeah. I mean, I think it's good. I mean, that's 100,000 phones that maybe people didn't have to buy, right? Like that's Like new phones, yeah.
It is. I mean, it is crazy, right? Like, I mean, half of me sympathizes a little bit with big companies and protecting their brand and all this stuff like that. But then sometimes I just like, did you hear that story a couple of weeks ago about Apple like going after that small Canadian company whose logo was like a pear?
No.
Oh my God, this was so crazy. So I can't remember the name of the company, but I'm pretty sure it was a Canadian company, small company whose logo was a pear that barely looked like the Apple logo in any way. And Apple's suing them because they're using a pear as their logo. Like that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like that seems a little crazy, right? And don't get me wrong, like probably this small company got a lot of publicity because of this, and it's great for them. But like to go like again, when you and we'll post the link or whatever, we'll figure this out. But like if you look at the logo, like I could understand if the pear looked a lot like very similar to the Apple logo and was in the same field, they're slapping this on laptops or whatever. Even if they weren't doing that, but even if the logo looked kind of similar, but like I don't know, like as far as I know, what I could see, the logo looked very not.
Yeah, this might just be a case of like when your legal team gets too big and too bored, like they have to do something, right?
So definitely questionable actions there. But that being said, don't forget to check out the Apple event October 13th for the brand new iPhone 12. All 4 iPhones. The rumor.
Did you see the
12?
Yeah. Did you see the poster or whatever the event? Like, did you see the every time they announce an event, there's like a poster, right? That kind of hints at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, did you see the augmented reality invitation that came out?
I didn't see that. No.
Yeah, so apparently, I guess the people who got the invites, it's like you put your phone and then this thing pops up.
Oh, it's super
And then
cool.
all these bubbles go all everywhere, and it's like 10, 13, and iPhone 12 and all this stuff.
Wow.
So,
yeah. I was gonna say they're. I feel like they're becoming less and less subtle with because it used to be that it's always like a word or like a tagline, right? And it used to be very, very like kind of ambiguous, and you didn't really know what they're referring to.
Yeah.
But they're just getting like super obvious now. Like,
I mean, this one was like high speed, right? Like high, like hello speed, like high speed.
Yeah, which is like obviously, and the design too was like waves or something, like signal waves or something. But so it's just obviously it's gonna be about 5G, right? Like it's like there's no.
Soon it'll be the full spec sheet. It's like this is what we're announcing on whatever. So, all right, we're gonna take a short break, but we'll be right back after this. And we are back. Welcome back to episode 46. This is season 6, episode 6. Lots of 6s in preparation for Halloween.
Yeah.
Yes. If you want to get in touch with us, be sure to email us at podcast.etc@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at the ETC podcast and visit our website anchor.fm/the-etc-podcast. All right. It is time once again for what is beneath Aaron's hat, but on his noggin.
Is there a reason we don't do the correspondence piece like Like after we tell people how to contact us, or is this like
it's
not that there's
a
a
question.
big plan to how we do this, but
It's a good question too, because like I remember so going back to episode 1 of the ETC podcast.
Oh wow. Yeah.
We talked about, and I talked about this on that episode, and I remember like when I was researching how to make a podcast, like you should have a structure, you should have a plan going in, right?
Yeah.
And we did. We had like, Aaron's random piece of news, and we had the news and whatever. And we've grown to have this thing that happens in the intro where I don't even like introduce the episode. I just kind of just jump into some kind of story.
Yeah.
So this kind of
format.
naturally evolved format happened. I've noticed in season 6, I can't figure out a clever way to come back out of the break besides just saying, like I kind of like to say like get in contact with us. But the one thing I will say is what I don't like about what we're doing is it's becoming very predictable, because so let's say somebody doesn't like Aaron's Noggin's piece of whatever. They'll get to the 30-minute mark and be like, screw this, I'm just turning this off. Right?
Yeah, that's true. We mix it up, and they're always...
We should mix it up.
Yeah.
We should, but we're not. We should, but we're not.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind.
But yeah, so good question. So do you want to do the correspondence, or do you?
I don't. I mean, we could try. Should we just? Yeah, let's throw people off. Let's.
All right.
Yeah, let's throw people off.
Get ready, guys.
I mean, I don't even know if there's any correspondence, so this will be awkward.
Although this is the thing. So I don't know if throwing people off, like I don't know if like us preparing to throw people off actually throws people off.
It's like yeah.
It's like, here we go, guys. In 10 seconds,
we're going
to do the correspondence. Yeah. Okay. Once again, I have not composed the theme, so we'll do the correspondence. We're getting less and less correspondence as the days go on.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
We went from a voice message a week to no voice messages a week, and we went from kind of an email to basically no email. Andrea sent us a personal email talking about our last email that she sent us. And we were just having some fun. Like we told her, we're not actually upset in any way.
Don't take anything we say seriously.
Yeah, exactly. But now we've whittled down to no email and just a couple of YouTube comments.
Yeah,
a couple of YouTube comments, which is great. But from our reliable correspondence, friend Andrea, the only person who seems like it. But I will say this: we have apparently 30 some listeners. Like, well, according to the estimation of Anchor, we have 30 some listeners. So, Andrea, thank you so much for writing and commenting. But where the heck are the rest of you guys? Let's get some let's get some stuff going on here. That's the way to do it: is threaten people.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrea commented on a couple of our videos, but I'll just read one here that I think is probably the best. So this is on our ETC Clips video.
Yeah, that's right.
About the best cover of Africa. So last week we talked about 40 Fingers having a cover of Africa and Peter Bence having a cover of Africa and saying which one was the best. And this is what she wrote. Peter Bence's passion and innovation can't be beat. Hadn't heard of him, but actually watched the entire video and now a new subscriber. So it looks like her vote's with Peter Bence, but don't forget, we had a Twitter poll to find out which version of Africa people like the best. So with only now we're down to like maybe 2.5 hours left in the poll. Here's what the stances are. So what's the best version of Africa on Twitter? Peter Bence, 0%.
Really? Okay. Wait, how many votes?
40 Fingers, 0%. We've had 0 votes. That was less than last time. The car debate, we had at least on the car debate. I think we had a good number of votes on that one. But Africa just none. But
maybe that's a sign. We gotta just stick with controversial material.
Yes,
that draw right. Not that talking about cars is controversial, but
yeah, we got to throw something controversial up just to get people's attention. So thanks Andrea for writing in for YouTube comments. All jokes aside, we really appreciate all the support we're getting, guys. So definitely contact us when you can, if you can. We always enjoy knowing it. And the reality is, you know what, like me and Aaron would probably do this if nobody was listening at all. So, we enjoy the time that you spend with us. Okay. That's it for the correspondence. That's crazy. Yes. We flipped it. Yeah. What's coming up next? Who knows? Who knows what we're going to throw into the mix? I'm going to throw in what is underneath Aaron's hat on top of his noggin.
Big surprise.
Big surprise.
So this is like, I feel like this is going to set a bad precedence because it implies I have like way more planning and like coordination than I actually do. But okay, I have a story that connects things mentioned on the last two, I think it was the last two or two of the last like 6 episodes, which is like kind of crazy. Like,
okay, you're going to blow our mind. Like episode 100. Well, You're gonna reveal that this is all a big master plan.
No,
it's all these seemingly disconnected stories all weaving together.
Maybe, but probably not. Okay, so I think I don't even know what episode I talked about these things, but no, just the last episode. I think I talked about deepfakes, right?
Yes,
and all the technology to go into that. And I think there was another episode where I talked about just like video, like the state of or the lackluster state of like video conferencing, video chat.
Oh yes, and the Marantz, Marantz device or whatever.
Yeah. Yep. So I have something that is not directly related to those two things, but there's a connection and it's a continuation of those two things. All right. So there's a few parts of this actually. So this is like multi-layered, which is again, don't expect this on next episodes, but let's start with something Apple introduced. I just found out yesterday that I didn't know about, but I don't know when the last time you used FaceTime was. It's been a while for me.
I used it 2 hours ago.
Okay, cool. So I don't know if you noticed, it's a setting, so I don't know if it's on by default or not. And I don't know if you need, actually, I think it's any phone with Face ID. I think that's what it is. Any phone with Face ID. But they've added a feature where somehow it repositions your eyes to look like you're looking into the camera, even if you're not.
I feel like we mentioned this on the podcast a couple episodes ago.
Do we? Yeah. No. What?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I maybe not. I don't know. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, this is not the whole story, but yeah, you maybe.
No, you know what? It was. You know, it was during that. It was either during last episode. It was when you brought up the whole Facebook thing. Like, okay, remember you were talking about the state of video conferencing, stuff like that, and you were talking about like dedicated devices, and then you mentioned the Facebook, whatever that Facebook
portal, portal,
portal, exactly. And then I kind of mentioned how it's cool how it tracks you. And then I think I might have slipped in. And then now how FaceTime is now doing the eye thing.
Oh,
okay. Granted, we're video conferencing. We don't always listen to each other. We barely,
yeah, exactly. Okay, well, so
good thing that's not the only. That's not
I'm
the story,
connecting it. I'm connecting to that. Yeah. But that's like I don't know if have you noticed that because I haven't tried it out. But I don't know if you've noticed.
I haven't tried it out yet. No.
But I guess you wouldn't. No, I guess you would. I guess depending who you're talking to, right? Because they also have to have a compatible phone.
Yes,
right.
Yeah. And theoretically, you wouldn't notice it because it would be so seamless. Like theoretically, you would just think
exactly.
The person just looking into the
yeah. So that's kind of crazy, right? Because it's sort of like it's kind of freaky. But something that just was announced, I think last week, is NVIDIA, the graphics and chips manufacturer. They've announced this new technology now that can basically replace like your entire person or face. So if you're having a call, so there's a few use cases for this. One being what I just mentioned, right? Like right now I'm not really looking at, like I'm kind of looking at the screen and my camera's above.
Yeah.
So one use case is kind of the FaceTime thing where it'll shift it, right? But completely through software. Like the way Apple does it on iPhones is because with Face ID, they have those fancy sensors to detect your face and map out in infrared. But this apparently is going to do it completely with like software and hardware and just any camera. So that's already kind of crazy. But the other use case that they mentioned is let's say we had a really bad connection, right? Or not even a bad connection. Like, it's really hard to stream like really high resolution, right? Like 1080, 4K. because your bandwidth limited and things like that. So the use case they mentioned is they could essentially stream yourself in 4K over like a super slow connection.
That's interesting. So I mean, I was kind of picturing as you were talking about that. So is it because they're really just sending the data points, which is a lot smaller than video data? Like they're just sending effectively it's almost like they're reconstructing you on the other side.
Exactly.
Because they're just sending the data across.
Yeah, exactly. And so what the person is seeing is not actually a video directly of you. It's like a generated computer image of you.
Right.
Which is nuts because it's so crazy because at what point do you define like are you actually looking at the person themselves or not? Because then you're not that far away. I mean, we've already seen it with with things like Zoom and stuff. You can replace backgrounds and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So at what point are you just going to replace like aspects of how you look or another avatar or even another person, right?
That's really cool, actually. Is this like ready soon or like is it?
I think it's really early. Like they just announced it as sort of like something they're working on.
Right.
And obviously it needs like crazy hardware and software to work, but it's like there seems to be a demo of it. So I mean, I think it's like
I love when like the solution to something is not like if something is bad. I don't like when the solution is just to put more power into it, right? So it's like video streaming. It's like, you know what? If we get higher internet speed connections and faster, image processing and stuff like that, it'll work, right? But I love when the solution is actually completely not in that line, and it's like, you know what? If we just take data points and send that over and reconstruct it on the other side, it's kind of like, I think about like when online gaming, right? Like online gaming, it's like you don't really need the other person's entire game to stream to you. You just need their position, right? And like,
exactly.
And send that over, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's like that's so much smarter, right? Like, and like it has the potential to really like. I'd be crazy if it was like if video conferencing was that much better, And I feel like this technique will make it go so much better rather than incrementally increasing the speed or whatever this and that, right?
Yeah, I mean, at least it gives another route to take to improve these things, right? Rather than waiting for everyone to have super fast internet and computers. So, I mean, it's crazy, and I think it's amazing seeing that sort of innovation. But I think there's a flip side to it, right? Like again, there's something that I think is a bit strange because I was reading a bunch of people's just conversations around this, and some people make a good point where one of the use cases I mentioned is like. Again, you don't have to be looking at the camera, and you might like when you look down and stuff, it'll still seem like you're engaged. But then at what point is it like you're not actually seeing the person, right? Because you could easily basically say like always just show my normal like as if I'm just interacting normally and hide like if I'm like angry or like throwing something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like at what point are you actually hiding a lot of the reality of the person you're interacting with?
Well, then you kind of get into the kind of like, you kind of get into the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the dangerous world of like Instagram, right? Where it's like you have this representation of a person and their life and what they're like versus who they really are, right? Like I find video has always been one of these things where, that's a nice genuine representation of somebody, right? I always thought like, anytime you see like dating apps, right? Like eHarmony, whatever, these kind of things. I always thought like, and these do exist. I just didn't know they existed, but like, I thought video versions of those would be really good because then you see how the person talks and behaves and stuff like that. It's hard to fake that stuff.
Yep.
Whereas what you're saying could potentially lead to people faking this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a name for this technology that we should keep our eye out for?
Yeah, I mean probably, but it's. We'll post a link.
All right, check out NVIDIA's Instagram video conferencing.
Yeah, that's
technology.
totally what it is. Yeah,
totally. Not, yeah. It's funny actually. Sorry, the other thing I was going to mention that brings up. Actually, I saw this YouTube video. I didn't actually watch the entire thing. I only watched like the first 30 seconds so far. But there's CNET. Like the CNET. They're like a publishing company,
the technology news.
So there's an employee there who decided to fake his Zoom calls for a month to see if anybody would notice. And he kind of faked a video of him kind of being in front of the camera the entire time.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's probably like the most tame version of what you're talking about, right? So
Yeah.
All right. So it is 2020 for those of you tuning in, which is not exactly, I guess, roughly, I mean, whatever, how you ever want to count it, 25 years since the album What's the Story? Morning Glory was released.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Crazy.
the iconic Oasis album,
25,
as it were, yeah, it was released in 1995. And so I guess they're doing a lot of celebrations around this being the 25th anniversary of that album. So I actually watched, so on the Oasis YouTube channel, a lot of my news has come from YouTube tonight. On the Oasis YouTube channel, they're doing a lot of kind of video, a lot of videos around this, and it's pretty cool. I watched the first one, and they kind of took Noel Gallagher and brought him back to this, I guess, this pretty now famous recording studio called Rockfield.
Okay.
So I guess like I don't know, I guess some pretty big British albums were recorded there. And it's kind of cool. So he's going back there and he's talking about writing these songs and recording these songs, and pretty interesting facts. Like apparently that album was recorded in 12 days.
Okay.
Which apparently
that seems short, right?
Yeah, which is apparently a super aggressive schedule. They basically were churning out a song a day, basically.
Yeah. How many songs on that album?
I think roughly 12, something like that.
Okay, so yeah, a song a day. That's
yeah. 12 days recording. I mean, it's funny is that like, I guess the Stone Roses were also recording in that album, or sorry, in that studio, kind of around the same time or just before Morning Glory or something like that. And apparently they recorded their album over a year and a half or something like that.
Oh wow, yeah,
yeah. So 12 days apparently is aggressive regardless. But it's crazy. Like, I don't really describe albums as like life changing or whatever. Like, I mean, they're good albums, they're good songs, but if you're really in the music industry, I'm sure you regard Morning Glory as one of the great albums of all time. 12 songs, and it's really cool to hear him talk about it too, because like not a lot of the songs were written like before he had gotten in the studio, and not a lot of the songs were finished. And so he says, like, the songs, if you listen to them, there's kind of two sides of them. Ones that were kind of finished and ones that weren't. And you'll notice the ones that weren't finished, if you listen to them, they basically only have one verse that repeats again. So like he didn't record. And he talks about Wonderwall too. Apparently there's like, I don't want to spoil too much of it, but he like, there's this wall, a stone wall that he was sitting on top of, and he was writing this song. And he's like, oh guys, I wrote this song called Wonderwall, and I want to record it while I'm sitting on this wall. So can you bring the microphones out here and stuff like that? And it turns out like they didn't use that because I guess it was just like
there's like this sounds terrible.
Yeah, like there's birds and stuff like that. So what's kind of interesting is like at the very beginning of the album you hear that recording. Like at the intro of Hello, actually you hear birds chirping and stuff like that. And that's because of that recorded. So very cool. So check out the Oasis YouTube channel. There's a lot of really cool things there on the 25th anniversary of Morning Glory. Wonderwall is a heavily overplayed song, and it gets like, it's got such a history with everybody in terms of, oh my God, I'm so sick of that, or everyone always plays on guitar and stuff like that. But ultimately Oasis, amazing band, amazing tunes, and Morning Glory was definitely, an amazing album with like so many good songs like Wonderwall, Morning Glory, and Don't Look Back in Anger and stuff like that.
Yep.
So very cool stuff. So Aaron, you do not have this major problem that a lot of the people in the world face. You're a very privileged person in this sense, and you're very rare to be in this place of privilege. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, just like life in general, or
there's something that you don't have to deal with that so many people in the world.
Oh yeah, I know where this is going. It's you're wearing it right now, right? Is that
yes. So headphones, right?
Yeah.
Glasses, right? Glasses. So
I mean, that might change, right? Like it's no guarantees. Maybe
Yeah, it's great. So do you get regular eye exams and you're still fine?
No. I mean, no to the regular eye exams, but now that you mentioned that, like, yeah, it's probably something that should be done.
So maybe your eyes have been degrading this entire time.
Maybe it's not normal that I can't see 5 feet in front of me.
Exactly. So you don't have to deal with glasses, which is obviously something that a lot of people have to deal with. And you know, I'm somebody who's never gotten contacts, so I have to deal with glasses. And one of the number one places I talk about where I have to deal with glasses that's really annoying is breakdancing. So I don't really breakdance, but when I do breakdance, I'm always like, oh man, I gotta take my glasses off because I can't breakdance with my glasses on, and I can't see when I'm breakdancing, right? But one of the more regular things that I have to deal with as a glasses wearer, I heavily noticed it in paintball. Not that I paintball a lot, but I am. Is there not like a meme or something or like this reminds me of something where it's like I don't always do this, but when I do, do you know what that is? Like, is it kind of based on the Dos Equis guy?
Yeah, maybe
the most interesting man in the world. Like I don't always drink, but when I drink Dos Equis.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't always paintball, but when I do, I wear glasses. The big problem, I love the idea of paintball, but when I go to paintball, the number one problem I deal with is I can't see, and it's not because I don't have my glasses on, but it's because I actually have my glasses on. Wait, what? Yeah. Off? Off. Yeah. Sorry.
Should you get new glasses?
It's not because I don't have my glasses off, it's because I have my glasses on and because they fog up. And
right. Okay, yeah.
And which is becoming a really big annoyance with masks. The COVID masks. Like, I don't have the most crazy masks, and the fog in my glasses gets really annoying, especially, if I'm in a situation where I'm like, oh, you know what, I'm driving, but I don't want to take off my mask because I'm going to be going somewhere that needs a mask anyways or whatever, so I'll just leave it on.
Right.
And then it gets all fogged up and it's really annoying.
Then it's like, actually, it's more dangerous because you can't see where you're driving.
Yeah, exactly. And
so you didn't get COVID, but you got into a car accident.
Exactly. Beat COVID by dying in a car accident. So it turns out there is a spray for this. And I don't know if this thing existed before COVID masks. I mean, it must have. But I don't know how this thing works. But there's something called FogBlock, which I read an article about because of COVID masks.
Okay.
And apparently it's this thing you spray on your glasses and they don't fog up, apparently. Does that sound real? Is that
I'm sorry, like what, how often are you spraying this? like
That's a good
you do it
question.
while like as they're fogged up, like you take it off and spray it?
No. Apparently you're supposed to spray it on before. Yeah, that'd be so annoying. It's like, oh, your glasses fog up, spray them and then wipe them,
like,
and they'll be all fine.
Yeah. Okay, so you apply ahead of time. Okay. I think I see where this is going.
You apply it ahead. I'm assuming it's like hopefully it's not like Rain-X, where it just all like globules and then you just can't see. You really can't see.
Well, I was gonna say, I have obviously don't know anything about this because I don't wear glasses, so I haven't heard of this. I there's a similar product because you mentioned Rain-X, right? And so for those that don't know, FTK, Rain-X, it goes on your windshield, and the kind of like what it's supposed to do, but it's very reliant on how you apply it, is instead of when it rains and water just sort of covers up the windshield, everything beads off, right? So you don't even need to use wipers, especially if you're going fast enough. But I was gonna say, did you know Rain-X has another product called FogX? And you install that on the you apply that on the inside, and because the car has the same problem, right? You know how it can fog up.
Yeah.
So I've heard of that. So I wonder if it's just the same thing, like same.
I wonder.
The only thing I would say is like I think I've used it, and it's like questionable if it does anything.
Right.
Like maybe it sounds like it's the same.
That's interesting.
Same type of product. Yeah.
So I'm looking at it on Amazon. So you can buy it on Amazon, and they actually advertise it for PPE masks. Although I don't know if they changed their advertising since this all started. But yeah, apparently solution, anti-fog solution and lens cleaner. I'd be very.
And you
curious
haven't tried this.
What's that?
You haven't tried it. You just
no. I just read about it on Engadget. Oh, it's currently unavailable, so that's annoying. I'd be very curious. Let's check the Amazon reviews. Really protects my glasses from fog. Great quality. Use it a few times and get the most of it. Oh, I guess get the most. Yeah. get the most of the fog. Oh, FogBlock, 1 star. Does not work well. Yeah, I don't know.
Does not block fog. Yeah.
Does not block fog at all.
I mean, I know I don't wear glasses for sight, but I've encountered this problem with just sunglasses.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. So check it out, FogBlock. I would love somebody out there in the ETC ether to purchase this and let me know if it works.
Review it for us. I like how this is this is such a bad podcast that it's not like we've tried it and we'll let you know how it is. It's like we've heard of this thing. Can somebody out there try it for us?
We're so cheap. We can't even do that. Do you remember when we used to give out free albums? Remember we bought an album for we were going to buy an album for somebody.
But did that never happen?
What it was like if enough people comment on this one blog post on the ETC podcast, we would do it. And not enough people
nobody.
All right. Okay. So we're coming to a close here, but there are 2 more YouTube things that I'd like to mention. The first actually is something that I've come across that has really piqued my interest. Have you heard of the tech publication Ars Technica?
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. So I did. First of all, I didn't know about these guys. Really cool publication that I don't know anything about, but I know about their YouTube channel. Have you watched their YouTube channel?
I didn't know they had a YouTube channel. So
so they have a YouTube channel.
By our powers combined, we know everything about them.
Exactly. So they have a bunch of videos, a bunch of kind of mini documentaries that they've done. But the one I've been watching recently, and I've only watched one video, but I'm very curious to watch other videos of this, is it's a series called War Stories. And what they do is they interview, video game producers and video game makers. Okay. And they asked them to tell them about like the challenges they faced in creating some of the kind of big games, and so the one that I watched was Crash Bandicoot. For the original PlayStation.
These are videos made recently, but maybe about games that maybe been made like 15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they talked to the Crash Bandicoot makers, which I was never a big Crash Bandicoot fan. In fact, a lot of times I thought like this is nothing compared to like Knights on Saturn or Super Mario 64 and stuff like that. I always thought it was like it got too much popularity. But actually, after hearing this guy's story, I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, so they like what's interesting is like this guy, the lead kind of I guess programmer on this, did a lot of hacking to make Crash Bandicoot work. Like he hacked the PlayStation basically. Like the PlayStation only had 2 megabytes of RAM, and so he like ended up hacking away to do virtual memory swaps and all this stuff like that. And he talks about like the animation to make it super fluid. Like he completely remapped how animation works. And so as a result, he actually has all these patents that came out of Crash Bandicoot, right? Like kind of Crash Bandicoot I kind of passed off as a stupid kind of 3D platformer. But this guy was actually really genius to how they actually made it, it's War Stories, and there's a bunch of more. Like there's cool. One on Myst. You remember that old video game Myst? Yeah, there's one on that. There's a lot of other ones there. So definitely check out Ars Technica's YouTube channel, specifically the War Stories one.
That whole era of like, I feel like, obviously video games today are huge productions and a lot of work goes into it. But I feel like that type of stuff is not really happening these days. Like I'm assuming like they don't have to try to go hack, like memory. Yeah,
because this power is so crazy now. Right?
There's a book that I still haven't read that's been on my reading list forever, but it's about John Carmack and creating Doom.
Okay.
And so like, that was like one of the first Doom, and then Quake, like, It Games was I think the game studio that John Carmack, he was the kind of person who created it and the lead programmer. But there's a crazy story that I think it's in this book, but basically it was either Doom or Quake, where same issue, like, there's back then there's a lot of limitations, right, in terms of graphics, and they had to like be creative and do things like that. There's apparently a story where they wrote they were trying to figure out this crazy problem for rendering graphics or something, and they couldn't get it. They were struggling with it, and then somehow they wrote something, and like it was this ridiculous math that they had to write, and it worked, but they had no clue why or how it worked.
Okay,
and they're just like, just ship it, and it wasn't until I don't know, like sometime after that they understood. So that's a story. I might be paraphrasing that incorrectly, but and it's just like, like I feel like that that type of stuff is so crazy because you look at it and it's like, oh, it's just like nowadays you look at it and it's like, oh, what's the big deal, right? It's like terrible graphics, but
yeah. And that's exactly the kinds of stories. At least this one episode that I watched was about, right? It's just him like coming up with these new algorithms and mathematical equations and stuff like that to kind of achieve what they really want to achieve, right? So I love how these people's minds work, right? Because I'm definitely not that way. I don't think about breaking systems, right? In terms of like how things work. I'm just like, I'm gonna make it work and go work hard within the system. But like these people are like, no, there's a smarter way to do this.
I feel that's a pretty lost art though. Like I suspect that again, maybe going back to those bands too, right? It's like I feel like again, like no one needs to be like a world-class drummer and sing at the same time anymore, right? That's just like you don't need to do that anymore. So same thing with stuff like this. It's like you don't need to learn how to hack and be like trying to break the system, right? Because the systems are so powerful. You don't need to do that, but it's kind of cool, like how it's, to hear those stories and it being a bit of a lost art. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. So I had one more YouTube recommendation, but you know what? That is a really nice way to tie this episode together. So there we go. I'm going to stop there. Do you have anything last thing to say before we run off the mill here?
No, I think this is good. We're gonna post links, and as we post them, I'm gonna learn about the things I said because I haven't actually read some of these things, but yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Big thanks to Andrea for leaving YouTube comments. If you want to get in touch with us, please email us at podcast.etc@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at the ETC podcast. You can leave a voice message or find all our links at anchor.fm/the-etc-podcast. The ETC podcast is currently hosted on anchor.fm and is distributed to all your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, and many, many more. Don't forget to subscribe and also check out our YouTube channel, which is gaining a little bit of traction. You can watch the video version of this podcast, but on top of that, you also, see little clips and even some bonus ETC stuff like me screaming in Aaron's Tesla. So definitely check all that out. But as for now, that is it for episode 46 of the ETC podcast on this wonderful Wednesday, October 7th, 2020. My name is Casey Lee, and sitting across the city from me as always is
Aaron Technica.
We'll see you guys in the next one.
Don't drive with fogged up glasses.